Get excited because it's almost that time again, Hawkins fans. After a long period of lockdowns and misery, and Netflix posting disastrous stock drops and user losses, perhaps Stranger Things can turn things around for the troubled streaming giant. But enough about reality, let's think towards the future. And as the creators say that, Season 4 is currently about to go live as the beginning of the end. So let's take a walk into the Upside Down and discuss everything you need to remember before Stranger Things Season 4. Recap time. Stranger Things hasn't been updated since 2019, and that is a long time in TV land. Perhaps a lot of you have even forgotten the story so far. I mean, after all, it did get pretty crazy towards the end there. With Part 1 of Season 4 launching May 27th with the second half on July 1st, let's remember what's been going on in the once sleepy town of Hawkins, Indiana. It's the 1980s, and everything is absolutely lovely in the idyllic little town until a young Dungeons & Dragons fan, Will Byers, disappears. His friends and mother are worried and they set about looking for him with the help of local law enforcement chief Jim Hopper. While normally a simple case of a missing child would be resolved with minimal collateral damage, it turns out that Hawkins is home to the Hawkins National Laboratory, where creepy, supernatural experiments have somehow broken a barrier through to a terrifying dimension called the Upside Down, and unleashed a man-eating body horror abomination, the Demogorgon, into the town. Along with the Demogorgon, there is also the Mind Flayer, who is able to transmit its mind and possess people. The lab has been conducting deeply unethical experiments on children, born or unborn, who have the potential to have special mind powers. And one of them, dubbed 11, or later L, escapes and joins Will's group of friends, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, to help them rescue Will from the Upside Down. 11 even gets adopted by Chief Hopper and is able to destroy the Demogorgon. Which sounds great, but that is just Season 1. There are the older siblings of Will's crew, his brother Jonathan, Mike's sister Nancy, and her then-boyfriend Steve. Oh, and also Barb, but sadly she doesn't make it. In Season 2, a new family comes to town with Maxine Mayfield joining the group and her violent brother Billy being a bigger jerk than even Steve. More maniacal mayhem ensues with Will being possessed by the Mind Flayer and a race of Demogorgon puppies running amok throughout the town. Fortunately, they are all defeated and repelled back to the Upside Down, but the Mind Flayer still exists, and that brings us up to Season 3. It's about 1985, and the Star Court Mall in Hawkins has opened, becoming the place for everyone to hang out. Dustin's got himself a girlfriend and built a big radio tower to communicate with her long distance. Mike and 11 are a couple, and Hopper is overprotective. All the moms are fantasizing over psycho lifeguard Billy, but even as he considers acting on one lusty mom, he gets possessed by the Mind Flayer, kidnaps Heather, and feeds her and her parents to the monster. Meanwhile, Jonathan and Nancy are getting deep into the town's mysterious secrets thanks to working at the local paper, and they discover the case of Mrs. Driscoll and her weird rats. More on that one later. Steve and his new friend Robin, female, are working at the ice cream parlor, and they help Dustin translate a Russian radio message that he picked up. Meanwhile, Lucas's sister Erica joins the group to increase the show's diversity quota. As the groups work separately and together to figure out what's going on with Billy, the Russians, Robin, Steve, Erica, and Dustin find a secret Russian lab under the mall where soldiers are trying to bust into the Upside Down. Dustin is able to get a secret code from his girlfriend by singing the theme from the Never-Ending Story 2, because, well, the 80s. Nancy and Jonathan find Will, Mike, Lucas, 11, and Max, and they have to escape from the Russians and a possessed Billy. 11 discovers the reason for Billy being such a jerk in the first place by reading his mind, and the entire group is temporarily saved when Billy sacrifices himself to save them from the Mind Flayer, who has now built itself a body of dead rats and human flesh. Lovely. Hopper and Joyce team up with a Russian speaker named Murray, and they manage to get into the lab and destroy the device that the Russians are using to power the gateway to the Upside Down. Sadly though, Hopper is trapped in the process and has no choice but to tell Joyce to blow the whole thing up, assumedly killing him in the process. Where are they now? The Hawkins crew have all found out that Hopper is dead, but a quick after-credit scene shows him working on some creepy Russian prison camp, where they also have a Demogorgon in captivity. Meanwhile, his sort of love interest Joyce, Will's mother, has taken 11, Will, and Jonathan and got out of town, heading for California. However, it doesn't seem like that will be going well if the previews of Elle being mistreated at school and taken away in a van are really any indication. She seems to be a girl who's the key to everything in what has become kind of a trope in modern TV shows, but we don't mind when the show is this good. Of course, back in Hawkins, everyone else is still kicking around. Lucas seems to be doing well for the basketball team, and Max still mourning Billy after his sacrifice is shown floating above his grave. So why is it all the girls who have special powers? Mike seems to have become a supporter of something called the Hellfire Club, which might be the D&D club but could be something far more sinister. The other characters are working as they were before, and not much is known about how they will be involved in the plot or indeed what the plot will be. It is pretty much a reasonable bet that the Mind Flayer is still around in some capacity, though it is hard to say for sure. It could be the Russians who are the main bad guys this time, but Russians with a Demogorgon. A new Dungeons & Dragons inspired monster Vecna appears to be hanging around and causing all kinds of horror in Hawkins, as is probably becoming quite regular for all the characters, but what does that mean for the fragmented crew? Well, we'll have to wait and see. What else? Oh, well, let's not forget there was a battle with a giant monster that happened at the end of Season 3 at the mall. That has to have permanently changed things. Other things that we've seen include a plotline involving a sort of haunted house, a grandfather clock in a state of disrepair, and the rumor is that there could even be some time travel in this season. We have seen Erica, Steve, and Nancy in the trailer too, but there is no indication if they made it to their goal of working together in a video store. Now, the most interesting thing that people are really latched on to is the mysterious fate of Jim Hopper. Last seen with all his head and facial hair shaved and standing in the snow. A prisoner working on a railway near a military base that houses a Demogorgon who feasts on the prisoners. Yikes. So what happened to him? How did he get there, and how will he get back? We don't have to wait long to find out now. Conclusion? It has been a weird almost 3 years since we last enjoyed some new Stranger Things, and when you look at how the world has changed since, there's only more and more reason to enjoy some nice retro escapism. Back when the last season came out, everything was still quite normal, except the most major franchises were plummeting into a pit of mediocrity and political agendas. Game of Thrones had just run its own ending into the ground, and nobody was worrying about inflation and the concept of being locked down, and wearing a mask all day every day was something so far from people's minds that it could be considered a Stranger Thing rather than Stranger Things. The Duffer Brothers show was in full swing, having become a phenomenon and seeming to be the best thing worth watching on streaming platforms that were, at this point, still mostly just Netflix. So a lot has changed, but excitement for the spooky slice of 80s nostalgia and horror is as high as ever. The creators have said that this will be the beginning of the end, and that they already know how the ending will happen at the end of Season 5, which hopefully will be shot and aired next year. We could all use a bit of fun again, and Stranger Things Season 4 looks set to deliver it. Are you excited for Stranger Things Season 4? And what are you the most excited to see?